With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning. Welcome to Buffelshoek and to a puddle of lions here in the road, the Kalahari Pride, who are in the road enjoying a little bit of a slumber. Hello everybody, it is a wonderful morning here in Buffelshoek and a wonderful morning to start with lions. The Kalahari Pride, I do believe, there seems to be 6 members here, but as always, I'm not the only one out and about on safari. Sharla and Johanna are out. They're going to be looking for some leopards in the south. Obakeng and BK are out in Tswalu, showing us the wonders of that environment. Rule and Gert out in Ambion and Garland. No doubt they'll be tracking down some lions. Taylor and Niels out on bushwalk in the Pridelands, as well as Pete and Craig and Ambion Pinder out and about to show us that wonderful biome. And this is indeed your live African safari. Good morning, everybody, and welcome, as I said before, to Buffelshoek, north of Djuma in the Sabi Sands, where it is a wonderful morning to find lions straight out of the gate. Thank you to Marcel, our tech wizard, who actually went up to Longpole to sort out some technical stuff. Found lions on the road, so easy tracking for us this morning. And my name is Steve, joined by Import on camera. Very excited to have you with us. As always, please send your questions and comments using the hashtag WildEarth. Throw them in on the YouTube chat stream. Don't forget to use the @FC. And if you are under the age of 18, get your parents or guardians to send an email through to kidssquestions@wildearth.tv. And of course, as always, if you have not registered, please go over to the website. Register. If you have done so already, you can go straight over to the Safari page. You can submit your questions there. So we are just on the southern section of Buffelshoek. The clouds are free and clear. There is an awesome morning ahead of us. It is already 18 degrees Celsius, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. We don't know how far away these lions came from, but no doubt they've been hunting, because the Pride is normally 14, and from the reckoning that we see right now, there's only 6. But in saying that, this is as close as we've gotten to them. They could be scattered all around. Kalahari Pride hails from Manuleti. And there's a camp there called Talamati, which means lots of water. And because the grass is so wet and saturated in the morning, it's a very common thing to find our predators out on the road like this. And it's why tracking them along the road with trackers on the front, or without trackers in the way we do it, is easily facilitated. You'll find patches like this where you can see where they've clearly been lying down. You can see the movement of the legs, where the tail has been, where a chin has been rested, or the side of a face. It really is quite awesome to be able to find those patches in the sand. And if you look closely when you are tracking and you look in the sand, you can often find little bits of fur, little bits of debris that have been left behind. But the imprints in the sand are often so magical. Snow angels in the snow, except here it's lion in the sand. Okay, well, it looks like a splendid day here in Djuma. Let's go see what the rest of the properties look like from a weather point of view.
Good morning and welcome to Ambion Private Game Reserve. where we heard this little rustle in the bushes, and we looked to our right, and Craig and I saw these rhino. At first we thought it was just two of them, but two more have just seemed to have appeared from the bushes behind us. My name's Pete, and behind the camera we have Craig this morning. Really nice warm day. You can see the sun just rising, and we've had quite a nice start this morning. Really no wind out and about. You can see these rhinos look very, very relaxed. They probably would have spent the night somewhere close here. You can see there's a bit of sand just in front of them. They often will sleep in a nice sandy area just because it's nice and warm, especially now as it's getting cooler. What this looks like to me is a white rhino mother with a calf that's just behind her, and then quite a big bull that's probably the dominant bull in the area that's just to their back. It's quite interesting. You can see how much taller he is, and you can see that shoulder height. He's behind this cow, and it's quite amazing to compare their size like that. Can you see how she's just got her head down, those ears moving around? They aren't really feeding just yet. I think they're still just warming up from the morning. Quite interesting to me too is how the mother's not too afraid of the bull, especially because she has a young calf around. I'd think that she'd be a little bit more nervous, but possibly this bull could have been the father of the calf, or she just also hangs around in this area. White rhinos the females have large home ranges that may cover or go between various males' territories. So the males won't really leave their territories unless they're going to go to water, but the females may move between the various males' territories. Almost looks like that calf is lying down. Look how that cow's also just closing her eyes. She's still quite sleepy. So this calf will stay with his mom for about 6 to 8 years, but even at that time it won't really be able to be by itself, just because it's still a little bit vulnerable to other predators or even other rhinos. So it will often do what we call satellite calving. So it might go and join up with another mother and calf, and this is just because the rhino cow would have gone back into estrus and would even be pregnant. So while this white rhino has got a young calf, or you can see the one lying down there, and the calf, while she's got a young calf, she can actually fall pregnant again, and when she knows she's about to give birth, she might start pushing out the slightly older calf. It's quite interesting to me how those ears work so independently like that. You can see the left-hand ear looking around, scanning around there, while this ear on the right is just focused completely on us, trying to figure out what we are. And that calf not really minding too much, just chilling there. Earlier we noticed some oxpeckers that were flying around. Oh, look at that big bull lying down now as well. Darcy Ann, you're right. No, it is awesome to see rhinos. It's quite an unusual spot for white rhino. You'd expect them often to be more in the open grassy areas. But as I said, might have been just an area where they spent the night. I'm sure as it heats up, they'll move out into the open grazing areas and maybe go and find some water as well. That bull wasn't ready to get up just yet. But I was mentioning the oxpeckers. Often you'll hear them here the oxpecker is flying above, and then you know there's some sort of pachyderm, maybe a herd of buffalo or some rhinos around. So it's often something that really helps us find rhinos. Also in this long grass, there's a lot of ticks around, and these oxpeckers really do help the rhinos out. We often see them even getting right inside the ears. You can see that ear cavities goes quite deep in, and sometimes you just see an oxpecker disappear right inside there. Carpenter, I'm actually not too sure. I've never heard of a rhino having twins. It'd be something maybe worth looking up, but I think it would be very, very unusual for them to have twins. But you know, out here in nature, anything can happen. So it is possible, but very, very unlikely. You can see not a breath of wind this morning. Really, really such perfect conditions. That open area that's just behind the rhinos, or just above the rhinos, you can see there far in the distance there's actually a wildebeest, and that's where that pride of lions was this morning. I'm sure at some stage we just drive past there and see if they're still around. So we're going to leave these white rhino to their resting time, and we're going to try and carry on and see if we can follow up on those lions again, see what they're up to, and we're going to send you off to Trish.
Well, you've started off this sunrise safari with lots of gorgeous big animals, lions, rhinos, and now we have one of the smaller creatures, the flat-necked chameleon. It's the one we saw last night. I came back to this tree to see if he'd still be around, and certainly he is. I love to see them in daylight. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishala. I've got Johan on camera with me this morning on Tswalu Game Reserve. As you can see, I'm a little bit chilly, but that'll change very soon because the sun has come out, and the sun is bathing this chameleon beautifully. This is the ultimate challenge when cam-ups have to come to my face and then have to re-find the chameleon. Well done, Johan, that was excellent. You can see that he's got a bit of moisture on his body, and if he's a little bit cold like myself, and he'd be right at the top of this tree, which he is, and absorbing some of that sunlight to heat himself up before he goes about foraging for the day. Sometimes if they're really terribly cold, they might go a darker shade, even a brown or a black, to try and absorb as much of that sun's energy as possible. What incredible little creatures. I'm so glad to start my drive off with a chameleon. I've got lots of plans. I want to head down to the south and see if there's any leopard action, because last night in that area, if you were watching, there was a leopard, but just not in our property. So I'm hoping that it would have moved further north into our property. But so far, it seems that they're still a bit too south for us. But we're going to keep a listen, keep my eye on the radio, see what happens. But in the meantime, we get to sit here with this chameleon in the perfect spot to listen out. I can hear the south pretty well. I can hear the central parts of Djuma. And it's a good spot to be in to listen for alarm calls. So I'm happy to sit with him for a little while. For me, one of the most interesting things about a chameleon is its tongue. Nina, good morning. You say they always look a bit nervous, don't they? Well, if I was walking at such slow speeds, I'd also be a bit nervous. I think it's their mouth, Nina. They always look like they're making a sad face, and then the eye is constantly moving around. Doesn't exactly create a relaxed atmosphere. And one of the reasons I like to watch them during the day is because they're diurnal. That's when they forage. And we've once had it on camera where the chameleon has actually pushed out its tongue and caught something. So there's always that kind of treasure that we're waiting for. Now that tongue can be as long as 2 times chameleon's body length. That's excluding the tail of the chameleon. And these flap-necked chameleons can get to about 30 centimeters. So that's quite large. You can imagine how long that tongue is. And that tongue is telescopic. So it gets pulled in and folded, kind of like an accordion. And they have a hyoid bone. It's difficult to see at the moment, but it sticks out, protrudes quite a bit. Kind of looks like an Adam's apple. And that hyoid bone acts like a trigger. So the tongue recoils back, pulls in, like I said, like a folds of an accordion, pulls in like a bow and arrow, and creates all that force just ready, this potential force ready to strike out. And that hyoid bone, can you imagine if you were pulling a bow and arrow back, the bow, as you let go, that would be the hyoid bone, just the trigger to push the tongue forward at ridiculous speeds. And the smaller the chameleon is, it seems that the faster that tongue can go. The record in one of the experiments in one of the quite small chameleons found in Tanzania, it could release its tongue, or the speed at which it released its tongue was the equivalent of a car going from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, or 0 to 97 kilometers per hour in a 100th of a second, or 0 to 60 miles per hour in 100th of a second. That is unbelievable. So much power packed into this little creature. Rodney, you'd like to know, how are their eyes able to move like that? That's an excellent question. They have very specialized musculature around their eyes that allows them to move like that. And each one of those eyes, as you know, can move independently. And each one can focus with depth perception. And that's because of the special shape of the lens. So the lens for us is kind of like a Smartie or an M&M, and for them it's a little bit more convex. And what that does is it allows them to even have depth perception in one eye. And usually when you think of depth perception makes you think that the eyes both have to be facing forward, but that's because animals have lenses like we do. Did I say convex or concave? Theirs is a little bit concave. So the depression goes inward a little bit. Imagine when I'm comparing convex and concave, I remember it's a cave, and caves are creating space. So that's how I remember if something is convex or concave in terms of the language. So happy to start off the morning with a chameleon. Gorgeous. Well, I'm going to keep on heading down to the south now. I haven't heard anything interesting going on around here. So I'm going to keep on moving. I'm going to send you over to Rule to say good morning.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to and Beyond Ngala's Private Game Reserve, where we are currently. This morning, we were planning on making our way down to the western side of the reserve in hopes to find nice large herds of buffalo, and I think that would be great if we could find that. But also what I like about the western side is that there is quite a large dam there with plenty of hippo and crocodile, so hopefully we'll be lucky enough to get to see some of that. But for now, on our way there, we had tracks of the pride. I think we got a little bit curious as to what the pride would be. Morning, everybody. My name is Ruel, and behind the camera, we have got Gert this morning. So we were hoping to see if we could find the whole Birmingham Pride together. So we want to keep checking. We're going to cross the riverbed now to get to the other side, and we'll see what we get when we get there.
It's the month of March, and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply. Wild Earth explorer Jenny recently joined Tristan as he broadcast live from Djuma.
Awesome to kind of have a guest on board. I'm looking forward to this. This is Jenny.
Hi everyone.
And Jenny is the first of our Ticket to Dream holders.
If you want to go on safari with a Wild Earth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Literally being with Tristan on the vehicle today has been incredible. It has truly been a dream come true.
Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
I would highly recommend being a part of the Explorer program and being able to be a part of an interactive live drive.
I'm Nikki here at Ambient Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Welcome back to Anmion Pindo, where these young lion cubs are just playing around the car actually, and we came back to the carcass that we were with yesterday, and they're still here, but they seem a lot more active than they were last night. It's quite amazing. There's 9 lions just surrounding us. It's quite fascinating actually. Look at this young cub there right next to mum. This is so awesome. They're gonna go greet mum. And it's amazing actually how gentle these older cousins have been with them. Oh, look at that. Giving a nice little embrace there. So sweet. Oh, got a bit of a fright there. Look at this. The one, oh, Jesus. Just a bit of discipline. Sure, that was quite an interesting interaction, hey, where one of the older cubs obviously just got a little bit too close to the youngster that's carrying that wildebeest leg around, and the mom just decided to give a little bit of discipline, saying, hey, don't get too close. You can see how cautious these older cubs are being now. If you guys are here, this lioness is about 4 meters from the front of our vehicle. Look at that. Unbelievable. Look at that older cub now coming in and being quite sneaky behind mom's back there. You can imagine there's not a whole lot of meat on that leg, but this cub's being very selfish and not wanting to share with anyone else. Oh no, look at that. It's amazing how the mom doesn't really mind too much. I don't know if I'd want an old wildebeest leg on my back. But mom seems quite content with what's going on. Rose, there are two males that are the dominant males in the area, but we saw them yesterday with the pride, but we saw also, as we were approaching here, the tracks of them heading north from here. So we know that they do go between 2 different prides, and I was mentioning yesterday afternoon that once they've had a good meal, often they'll go and then head off throughout the night and patrol their territory. Look at that. That lioness is being very considerate. Look at how they're all following the one with the leg. Oh no. I love that sound. There's just a whole lot of high-pitched moaning or groaning going on, where they're all just interacting now, trying to figure out what's going on. You can see this young cub just following behind the rest of them. They have taken this wildebeest leg under the tree here, trying to get it away from the rest of the cubs. Yeah. Such a special sighting, with all of them so close to us here, almost surrounding us at one stage. Oh. Look at this young cub stalking. Oh. So playful. And Nola, you're right, there are a lot of cubs. There are 7 cubs at the moment in this pride. And this is actually not all of the lions in the pride. There are actually 2 older lionesses that are not here at the moment. They're quite nomadic at the moment, moving around. And we think, well, we saw them mating recently, so there's even going to be more than more than 7 cubs soon. Look at that. One of the older cubs just coming from behind. I'm sure you'll get him in frame soon. There you go. This is coming to join in on the fun. And I'm sure if it gets a little bit too rough, Mum will come and sort them out again, give them a bit of discipline. But I think for now, this is so important for the cubs just to learn these little stalking techniques and use that instinct. Anna-Marie, you're right, they are looking really healthy, especially after that feast that they had yesterday. They're all looking so full and in good condition. Someone asked yesterday about them grooming each other, and that's also one of the reasons that they're looking so good and so clean. These older lionesses as well, they haven't been in too much conflict, and so often you'll see older lionesses with a lot of scars and battle wounds that are looking quite tattered, but these lionesses are still quite young relatively, so they're still in really good condition, looking really beautiful. You can see that one now that we screen up on. She's got such a beautiful face. You can see she's the older of the lionesses. She's very big and there's such a beautiful face. Winfire, there's actually 3 prides on Pinder, and we've got about 35 lions, I think, at the moment, in total. So, there's 1 pride in the north of the reserve, and then 1 in the west of the reserve, and then 1 where we are in the moment, which is the south of the reserve. So, yeah. And then between the two prides that these males go between, there's, I think, 15 in this pride in total if they're all together, but that doesn't happen too often. And then about 8 or 9 in the other pride that these males go between. One of the other cubs has just gone off. I think we've had a lot of rain here in the last while, and so there are a lot of puddles around, and often after a big feast they'll head off and go and find a bit of water to drink. Look at that cub being all playful. Still with that wildebeest leg, you can imagine there's not a whole lot of meat on there. But that cub was... Oh, a little bit more action here on our left. You can see that pose there where the cub's on her back and just put her paws up. That's almost like a submission pose. Often you'll see that when maybe a male lion is fighting with another one and the one has been defeated, it'll be lying on its back and trying to submit, as opposed to say that you dominant over me. We're going to sit here for a little while with this pride and see what they get up to. It's quite a lovely morning, still nice and cool, so hopefully they're active for a little while longer, and we're going to send you off to Taylor.
Well, this morning we are playing a game of Who Dung It, which is one of my favorite games to play, and I know that all of you back at home enjoy playing it too. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Niels, and we're here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger Park. Shall we have a closer look at what is happening on the ground? Now, we've actually had quite an interesting morning so far. We've had our minds baffled, but I'll tell you about that in just a minute. So this feces, so we're not really playing Who Dung It, we're playing Who Scattered, because typically when we talk about predator feces, we talk about scat, and then with herbivores we normally talk about dung. Now, because of this very greenish coloration, and immediately I open it up and I can see lots of shards of bone. Can you all see that? Look at this, huge pieces of bone. I'm also not going to touch it with my bare hands because that's disgusting and also filled with bacteria and all sorts of things. I'm using my little stick. So this screams that it is from a spotted hyena. Now, we haven't seen any brown hyenas around here, just the spotted hyenas, but there are a few reserves not too far away from here where you could have brown and spotted hyena on the same reserve. But this is awesome. Now, hyenas have got the most unbelievable digestive system. I mean, the fact that they can crunch down with their powerful jaws and sort of shatter bone like this and then still swallow it is just something really, really amazing. And hyenas can, of course, digest shards of bone up to about 7 centimeters or so. So this is from last night or maybe even early this morning. There are quite a few hyena tracks around too. You can also see, now that I've opened it, it doesn't smell very nice. I should not have done that. Anyways, but very cool. Lots of hair in here too. They don't really mind what they eat, where you'll find that the cats tend to, especially something like a leopard, will pluck its fur, or its prey's fur, not its own fur. That'd be terrifying, before it eats something. And then lions, of course, have got those little barbules on their tongue that are super rough, so that they'll lick and lick continuously on the carcass, and that hair comes off, and they'll normally regurgitate that in the form of a hairball. Now, let me throw my stick away. The reason why we've been confused is because as we were walking, we're looking around us constantly, and we stare down at the ground. Now, when we headed towards Impala Plains. As I was trotting along, I wasn't trotting, I was walking, I don't know why I said that, and I noticed the blood stain on the ground, which is a little bit further away behind us, and I touched it. It wasn't wet though. It wasn't really that sticky either. So I suspect that it might have happened a little bit earlier on in the evening, or maybe even late yesterday afternoon. So I was like, okay, couldn't see any tracks around. It was quite rocky. We looked everywhere, and it was just in one spot, and that suggested, and it looked like a hyena had eaten a scrub hare. That's what it had reminded me of. I've seen something like that before. Anyways, we carried on, and I said this out loud, and we walked a bit further, and we all of a sudden saw a track on the ground. And the first thing that I noticed when I saw this track, and Willem, who was walking with me too, we both stood there and we looked at it, and we went, We didn't say anything. Normally we would go, leopard, lion. And as we saw this track, the lobes were very, very closely pushed together. And I will show you it at some point if we find another nice, clear track in a spot where we have signal in my tracking book. The lobes at the back of the foot were very prominent. They were very narrow. And the track was very long. So it was more rectangular than sort of square or quite rounded. And then in some of the tracks, we could even see nails. So now we're thinking, is it maybe cheetah? It's not impossible. Cheetah come through quite often. I know that you've seen cheetah with Mike on the show a couple of months ago. It might have even been last year, but they do come through here. And Impala Plains, great area for the cheetah. So we've walked along, and there's some tracks that look like leopard, and there's some tracks that look very much like cheetah. So we're not too sure. But if there was indeed a hyena tailing behind, say something like a leopard, it wouldn't be impossible that they were getting agitated and might have put their claws out as they were walking. This has happened, and I have seen it quite a few times, and especially in the dominant male leopard in this area, Shimungwe. So all very fascinating. So pretty much from here, our next move is to now just keep walking along, and hopefully we can pick up some more tracks, because we haven't had anything clear. You can see if we look down on the ground right now, we've got clouds, it's overcast, it's very difficult. There's not much light on any of the tracks. And even if something walks here, if it was very, very fresh, it'd be easier to see. But if a cat is just walking nicely along the road, not necessarily dragging their feet, the track could be lost quite easily. So we're trying to find soil like this, where there is a good track in the ground, where it's fine and we can actually see some more detail. And we want a harder surface so that the track isn't distorted, because the softer the soil, or if you're in mud, often the track will splay out a bit and then appear a lot wider than it may seem. So anyways, we're going to go on a hunt to try and figure out who walked in this area. Was it a cheetah or was it a leopard? It could be either or. More leopards than cheetah though. Anyways, off you go across to Steve, who has got a cat that we are not looking for this morning.
Welcome back, everybody, to one young male of the Talamati Pride who's going to climb on top of the Termite Mound and be silhouetted with the beautiful sun behind. Now, individual members of the Pride started moving into the thickets. There was a little bit of a hunt for some impala. By the sounds of it, nothing was successful. And this young male has been trying to find the rest of the Pride. Isn't it gorgeous? Sorry about the sun behind, but it is what it is. He's now looking right at you, and Paul. How does that feel? He's the king of the castle now. And the female is going to join him in a second. She's just coming from the left. She's probably going to go up there, and they're probably going to have a little bit of interaction. Maybe she's not going to give her another moment. He might jump on her. They're both trying to smell where the adults have gotten to. Here she comes. Oh, where's Mum? He doesn't know. He wants some food. Where are the feeders? Now doing some low contact calling just before. Catherine, what a beautiful picture, isn't it? It's sensational to have lion on top of a termite mound. We sometimes wait all morning for that sort of shot. And well, they just did it for us right there. I think his sister's got a better nose than he does. Looks like she's going to be able to find the rest of the adults. The two adults moved off into the long grass and then lay down. And it was the young lioness there with the stub of her tail missing that actually went through here, and he followed her. So I don't even think the adults joined in the fracas that was going on. Hard to say. Importantly, just stay with the couple. They will find the rest. And if they do make a kill, we will hear it. They scared the life out of the impalas, so that's for sure. Here we go. He's playing hide and seek. The two of them. Are you guys hiding in the long grass there? Oh, yes, JP, all the time. Just the other day, I missed it briefly, but this pride made Kara, Shadula's daughter, they treed her, which means she went up a tree, a very slim, flimsy little tree. After making a scrub hare kill, the lions were on her in a moment, I believe. Lions are very aggressive to other predators. They're very aggressive to predators in general, including other lions. And if they encounter a leopard, they will try and kill it. That's just what they do. They also steal their food as often as they can. That's why if a leopard doesn't pick the right tree to get the right amount of elevation, lions will climb up. There's another lioness in front of them. So they're happy now. They found one of the adults. Now they're just going to sit in the shade. So, these animals respond very quickly to birds of prey, like vultures. We saw Darkmane the other day, who ran off into the thickets there and took what was a young impala. Whether there'd been a leopard there before was hard for me to say, because you don't normally get vultures descending onto a leopard kill. But if they come across a leopard killed in a tree and they can get up, they will get up. We've had Osana a couple times, a young male leopard who's now a fully grown male to the south. We've had him up a few trees with the lions at the base. We've had Osana in a tree with kills, and then the next day we come and there's lion tracks everywhere and lion claw marks all over the tree, and the kill is gone. We have a moment of panic that the leopard is injured. But leopards have a huge respect for lion, and if they do encounter them, they get out of the way very quickly. I'm not sure who it was, but they were following Tingana, or they were with the evoker males, and Tingana came walking into scene, spotted the lions, and just made a quick exit. So from a weight point of view, a leopard's got no chance against even a lioness. Lionesses weighing up to 135, 140 kilograms. They are power, whereas big male leopard maybe gets up to 90, as much as 100. So as a weight class, there's just really no comparison.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Welcome back to and beyond Pinde, where these lions have just gone along the road. We're going to try and re-angle now. You can see the one cub just chasing behind there with the leg, and then hot pursuit. Oh! Oops, my earphone fell out. I'll be putting it back in right now. There we go. All sorted. Look at them there playing. Ooh. You see them all lying in the road now, just playing there. There's just a little patch of sun. It's quite beautiful. I can imagine that sand is quite nice and cool as well, and being in the shade after a nice cool evening, it's quite a nice spot for the lions to be lying as it's heating up now. You see these cubs quite inquisitive. Look at all their ears pointing right at us. Ooh, a little bit of an interaction there between, I'm sure, the mother of the younger cubs and one of the sub-adults. You can see them looking a little bit look to the right now as these other cubs start approaching. Watch now as the older lioness is approaching, how they react. I'm sure they might go and greet them nicely. Look at that. That sound also is often the sound you hear when they're quite hungry or ready to suckle. You can see mom's teeth are still very swollen, and one of the cubs very keen to try and maybe get a little bit of milk. Even though they've got such full bellies, they're being quite greedy. It's amazing how brave these young cubs are, taking on their older cousins. Not afraid at all. Can you see the lioness that's just further away from us now? She's the older lioness, so she would be the leader in this pride. And when she decides to start moving, then the rest of the pride will follow. Even the mother of the other cubs will follow up behind her. I don't think they're getting ready to move right now, just because these cubs are quite full and often they won't move around too much, especially with these cubs being quite young. They only move short little distances at a time, and usually be when it's a little bit cooler. The cubs take a little bit of strain when it's quite hot and they're moving around a lot. It's amazing comparing those bellies that we saw last night where they were really, really full compared to now this morning, where they're their bellies are a lot smaller. Vanessa, they can growl, and they often will give a little hiss at each other when they're not feeling too happy. We saw earlier someone asked about whether, I can't remember who it was, but whether these cubs will be scent marking, and I thought it was quite an interesting question. And we just saw now the young cubs, the ones that are the youngest here, they were doing the phlegm, so they're taking a bit of the urine, and that's possibly where their fathers had scent marked yesterday. And they're taking a bit of the urine and breathing it in over their Jacobson's organ, and then one of them I even saw lifted his tail and tried to pretend to scent mark. Nothing came out, but it was just quite interesting that question had come up yesterday. You can see now that one cub flat out. Been a long morning of playing around. So Jen, at this stage it would just be if they had to lift their tail, and you'd have to look between their legs at the genitals. But with the older cubs, there were 2 male cubs that have recently passed away, and those cubs were quite a bit bigger than the females. So in a few months' time we'll get to see the size difference. So the males will be quite a bit bigger, and then after about a year, or 8 months to a year, the males will start developing a small little mane. They'll get like a little jawline with a bit of longer hair, and then also on the top of their crown they'll also have slightly longer hair, and that'll also be one way to tell the males from the females. The males also, if there were males here, there would be almost more independence. From quite a young age they will go off by themselves and almost separate themselves from the pride slightly. Obviously not too far because they're still vulnerable, but they will separate themselves, and then you'll see the females will have quite a close-knit bond. Heather, yes, the whole pride would protect the cubs. If another predator had to come into the area, or if they had to come across another pride of lions, the cubs would probably hide first though. So they would probably try and hide away. But if another lion or predator had to come really close to the cubs, the rest of the adults would all come and try and protect the cubs to the best of their ability. See now how they're slowly just moving closer and closer to that shady spot. I'm sure as it's heating up, the sun is getting quite a bit higher now, and they're probably going to retire to the shade rather soon. But this nice sandy soil, as I was mentioning earlier, is really nice for them to keep cool. But we're going to sit here for a little while, and we're going to send you off to Rule and Ngala.
If you look there, behind those bushes, you'll see the patterns for now. There are at least 4 male giraffe that we could see in this area. It's just that some of them have moved to behind the bushes, and I think that's because they're feeding. I know we set out this morning just trying to find whatever that nature has to throw at us for this morning's game drive, and I think just to spend some time with this giraffe is very lovely. one animal that's very known for being very, very tall. I think there is one up here that we saw, and just the neck, we think could be at least 2 meters tall. You can see there. I think if we wait a little bit, I know they will not spend a lot of time in one bush. Maybe take a few bites and move on to the next one. So maybe we might get to see through that gap when this one giraffe moves off. And you can also see at the back there is another one that's also feeding. What's interesting is that they feed on the fresh growth of the leaves right at the top of the trees, and the tall necks actually helps them to do that. But also in their mouths they've got these gaps between their teeth, and they just put a twig in and put it in between the gaps, and they just strip the leaves off. That's why if you look after a giraffe is fed, you'll see that the top of the tree has got these twigs that are sticking out and are leafless. For now, they're feeding off the trees that don't really have thorns, and I've also seen them feed on knob thorns quite a lot. And you can imagine if you had to put a twig of a knob thorn between your teeth and then pull just to rip off those leaves there. I know you might be just thinking of all the pain that you would get from there, but the giraffe's gums are actually designed. They're very thick, so the thorns don't really hurt the giraffe. Also, with the help of that saliva that the giraffe has got, making it a little bit slippery in there, not giving the thorns a chance, that's what helps them. But also, moving from one tree to the other one makes sure that they get the different nutritional value from the different trees. I think I'm going to move forward a little bit slowly. Maybe we might get a nice gap up there in the front. With this guy, he's still standing there and he is watching. Nectar, what do we call a group of giraffe? A group of giraffe is called a journey. It is a journey of giraffe. Interestingly enough, you see that one there in particular is a female. And when we got here, we only saw 4 males, which means when they moved, they might have joined up with her where she was. And you can see there is an oxpecker on her neck. Just moved to, there we go, on top of the horns, right in the middle there. And if you look carefully at what that bird is doing, some might think that it's cleaning its beak, but it's definitely not eating any ticks there. So what the bird is doing is collecting little bits of fur from the giraffe, and it's going to use it to line the nest. So that's what they use, these oxpeckers. They don't only go for the ticks on the animals, but also the fur. And that helps to line their nest and make it soft. if it's due to their height, are they... Well, with the lightning strike, I don't really think they are vulnerable to it. No, not at all. The only problem is running through tall trees or anything like that. But their height is actually an advantage because that allows them to see even further. You can imagine the higher you go, the wider the landscape becomes. So that gives them the ability to actually see. Even though there's not a lot of predators besides the lions that can bring this tall animal down, for them to actually still be looking, because sometimes the females would have young ones with, and that height helps them to look out for predators from far. You can see, I think she's now deciding to carry on. You know what's incredible is that even though the giraffe has a completely different color pattern to the rest of the animals, like the zebras and the elephants and the impalas, but it also blends in extremely well. We know that this giraffe, she is right there, but to see her through the bush is very, very difficult. All right, I think we're going to carry on down the road, hopefully head down towards the dam and see what will be at the dam for a drink this morning. It is quite warm, so in the meantime, we'll send you guys over to Steve with his lions.
Always nice to check a watering hole. Our lions haven't done much since you were last with us.
David, please.
Hang on a second. Go ahead, David.
Hyena Den off Access Road. I haven't been here for a year. Just give us an idea where the new Hyena Den is.
David, same place as before, just off of Philemon's cut line. There's an access just off there to the left if you're coming from Philemon's dip.
Okay, now then I know that one. Okay. And I see you can only enter from the north.
That's a firm from Philemon's dip side.
Confirmed, thank you.
Yeah, it's the first den there. It was the old den. It's there now on the right as you come in, the first one you get to. So, it's just updating one of the landowners on where the Djuma hyena den is. So, we've been with this pride now since about 10 past 6. Marcel, our technician, was out. He comes up to Longpole regularly for technical issues and battery changes and all sorts. And so he was out and found them at about 5:45 or something. And so we came to follow up, and we've only managed to count 6. But while we were with them, we had alarm calls to the south, and then we had alarm calls again to the north. These individuals went to investigate. So I haven't been able to identify who's who, but there is a very annoying fly that keeps landing on us, and well, you know where the flies have been. But that individual at the back, Mpo, that one over there, you can see how hungry it is. It's got a very empty tummy. And this boy that we were with a moment ago has got a little bit of a bigger belly than the rest, and that's because he's a boy. And if they managed to kill something small last night, which I'm sure they did, because one individual came and licked his ear, licked his head, and that's because there would be blood there. And if there was a small kill, like one impala amongst the whole pride, or maybe even a steenbok or something, the stronger males always dominate, even when they're only young. Got a lot more brute force, physicality. Well, Charlie, that's a good question. The Talamati Pride is on Buffelshoek right now, and they spend a lot of their time on Buffelshoek and into the Manyeleti, so they don't have the same sort of boundaries that we have. They just see land and they move. There's obviously some form of territorial boundaries that they're sticking to, but the Unkuhumas haven't been around for a bit, so the Telematis have been moving more and more into Djuma. But because they move quite a distance at night in the search of food, they can cross 2 or 3 different boundaries in one night quite easily, or they can make a kill nearby and they can stay in the same place. The Telematis in January, when Tristan was here with me, they killed 3 wildebeest around the dam. And I think it was around Vuyatela Dam. I think 4, maybe 5 days in a row. They were pretty much in the same area. They didn't move very far. So it's very hard to say exactly. They can suddenly go from being stationary like that, spending 3-4 days in the same spot, to covering quite a vast distance. A lot of factors can be involved with regards to the availability of food, availability of water. If they're a pride with semi-young individuals and they hear males calling, they'll often get up and move in the opposite direction to get away from those males, especially if they're not related or familiar males. That's a protection of the cubs or youngsters. So many factors can cause them to move. But hunger is one of the biggest driving forces. But for example, they were around Jacana Camp, which is here in Buffelshoek, a bit more north and west from where we are now. They were in front of that. Then we had them at Sydney's Dam. Then they were on Djuma. And then again the next morning they were in front of Jacana Camp. And then they were back on Djuma. And then the following morning they were back at Jacana Camp. So the movement is probably one of familiarity, as well as wind direction, as well as where the animals are hanging out. So there are many factors that can make them move, and some people think they're quite lazy, but they often do move vast distances to be found back where they were the night before. Okay, well, Trishala is out and about as well. Let's go catch up with her.
I'm so happy this malachite kingfisher is quite close to us, so we get to see all the colors. So gorgeous. We're here at Buffelshoek Dam. This is where we saw it the other morning. And here it is again. Just too stunning. It is hunting. You can see it keeps moving its head up and down. It's looking down into the water beneath it for potential prey. But despite the name kingfisher, there's only a couple of the kingfishers that we get in Djuma that actually fish. And this being one of them, the malachite kingfisher. The other two are the giant kingfisher and the pied kingfisher. Woodland kingfisher, the brown-hooded, grey-headed, the pygmy kingfisher, those ones, they don't, spider, no. They don't hunt near the water. They prefer woodland, and they take more geckos, insects, those kind of things. Only the pygmy, the giant, and the pied kingfisher that you'll find in these areas with water bodies, because they're the ones that actually fish. More often than not, they're taking aquatic animals as opposed to fish. Giant kingfisher, obviously because it's bigger, more likely to take actual fish. You actually see them with fish. These colors for me are just the best. What a beautiful, beautiful bird. Sarah, you'd like to know if they're migratory bird? No, they're not. You'll see them around, but they do have movements locally. It's called a resident when they're in this area, but they'll move around locally, so you won't see them all the time because of their constant movement, but they're not migratory. So they don't come from another part of the world here to breed or anything like that. We just don't see them very, very often. So for me, that's why they're very special. Their colors, I don't know if you noticed, I like their colors. Edward can't agree with you more. You say that the colors are simply amazing. Absolutely. I especially like the crown and that little kind of blue patch at the beak that attaches to the skull. I feel like it's really concentrating. Are we gonna see you get a meal? Do it, do it, do it, do it. All kingfishers have really, really stunning colors. Even the pied kingfisher, that black and white and the hovering motion. Oh, did you get some? Well, better luck next time. Doesn't matter. It's still the most beautiful bird I've seen today. And off it goes. Well, we're waiting around here to see if some elephants come down to drink. We did see some nearby. So, wish us luck.
For all of you Wild Earth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew, hopefully Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
I'm absolutely delighted to have won the February prize draw for 3 nights for 6 people at the Djuma Private Game Reserve. I absolutely love everything Wild Earth has to offer. I find the guides extremely knowledgeable and will go above and beyond to ensure a great safari experience. I will be taking my husband and family from the UK to experience this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. One of the main reasons I joined the Wild Earth Explorer program was for the fireside chats and also to win an incredible prize, which I am so fortunate to win and incredibly happy. I would like to thank Wild Earth for this amazing prize and cannot wait to meet the team.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website.
Once you've done that, head to the Live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Welcome back to Bufosuk with the Telemati Bride, where we've only got eyes on one individual, and this is one of the old lionesses. I think the one with the damaged right eye, another sort of opaque purple eye individual, who is sleeping in the sun. Now, I think because the moisture that she's lying on is making her a little bit more comfortable, but almost certain that shortly she's going to get up and move off, as the other two we were with have done so. We can continue our discussion of ecology that we've been working on the last few days and talk about the differences in hunting between lion and leopard. And obviously the leopard, generally being on its own, has the ability to stalk and ambush, but it has no assistance when it comes to that. So it has to be very precise in what it goes for, whereas the lions can sort of spread out, lying in the thickets like this, individuals all over the place, make it very difficult for a prey animal to get through that web or that net. And yet they still do manage. That ability of the impala, once again, to jump right over the lion's head that's lying prone in the grass and is ready to pounce. I've seen lions do complete backwards somersaults as they jump up and flick backwards to catch the animal that jumps over their head, both impala and kudu. And with that huge amounts of flexibility in the spine, if you or I had to jump from a flat prone position, end up doing a near backflip, connecting with an animal at full pace jump over your head, it would probably dislocate our shoulders, dislocate our spine, break our spine, and then land in some very awkward manner. The claws latching onto the prey animal's skin or hide, sometimes ripping straight through and the animal escaping, sometimes not. And then very quickly, without even catching their breath, because no doubt you would be winded if you jumped and landed like that. First of all, if only just winded, the lion immediately is able to take control and try to subdue a very powerful animal that is fighting for its life. I know it sounds all quite mundane, everybody, but this evolution adaptation of both predator and prey has been on the go for a very, very long time. As the lion has gotten more agile and more fleet-footed and more powerful, so the animals they are catching have become more alert, more aware, more spring-loaded and more able to escape. The things you see lions go through, the way they put their body on the line. Obviously against medium-sized prey it's one thing, but the way they put their body on the line against the likes of giraffe, buffalo, there's absolutely no consideration for the injuries that they might encounter. And that's why lions don't live as long as they could in the wild, because of the potential risks and dangers. Every time a lion hunts a buffalo, it has the risk of being killed. Every time they hunt a giraffe, the same story. Leo, I mean, there are slight differences, when it comes to impala or kudu. I suppose that the strategy is quite similar, but then kudu are normally a thicket-dwelling animal. So I suppose when it comes to wildebeest and impala, generally a very similar strategy is practiced for wildebeest, impala, and the zebra. There'll be a group of them, the animals or the lions will know that they're there, and they'll try fan out and put a web from one side and then try go around and try chase them into that net or that web. Doesn't always work. The animals don't always run in the exact direction that the lions want, and well, that is something that they have to work on. Giraffe, though, they'll actively physically seek out and try and isolate an individual The giraffe will try and keep distance and will try to keep away. So a net doesn't always work for giraffe, but once it does get surrounded and there's no escape, the lions then have to take their time trying to jump on it and pull it down. And that's a very similar process for buffalo. The lions have to isolate the individual. They have to get it away from the herd. That is the only way. Giraffe and buffalo have to get them on their own to the point where the animal doesn't run anymore and just stands there. And then the lions will start to try to jump on it. Obviously, both buffalo and giraffe are very powerful. The buffalo doesn't necessarily kick, but it is very heavy. So if it stands on a lion, it is going to hurt. And those horns are very, very dangerous. So lions try and jump on its back, try and pull it down, try to stop it moving. Because once it's on its haunches or on the ground, the risk that buffalo has against each lioness or lion involved is almost completely removed. Same going for a giraffe. The giraffe, however, have got phenomenal backward kicking ability and a forward kung fu slamming chop towards the ground, and either of those connects a lion, it could kill it. So the lions are a little bit more cautious when approaching a giraffe. They almost throw themselves at its body, trying to hold on, and the kicks just get thrown left, right, and center. And sometimes you see the kicks just miss lions' heads. But the potential to be stomped on by a giraffe of 1,500 kilograms is no, you're not going to get up from that very easily. So the objective with the giraffe, once again, is to get them down. And once the giraffe are on their knees or on the floor, the risk that they have to the lions is almost completely negated. Okay, well, hopefully we're going to get to see some action this morning from our lions that are very sleepy at the moment. But in the meantime, we'll send you over to Rule, see if he's had any luck with his lions.
You can see we have found a very, very large, in fact, I think one of the largest birds of prey. It's a martial eagle on top of that tree. See, if you look at his head, you'll see what looks like a little crest there. I think that's because of the wind behind his head blowing onto the feathers there. Very, very beautiful bird to see, especially for us here on Ngala. We hardly get to see them. There are one or two spots that we get to see the martial eagles, but also they are an endangered species. You can see the tree that is perched on is just on the eastern side of the dam where we are, and I can see it's a very beautiful tree. If you look at it, it's dead leadwood. You can see there in the silhouette there's a nest of the red-billed buffalo weavers on the side there. I think that is just a beautiful tree. What I'm wondering is how the red-billed buffalo weavers are feeling right now in that nest with that large reptile just sitting a few meters away. Even though this eagle will hunt larger prey than the buffalo weavers, small mammals, they are also known to hunt other birds as well. And they actually enjoy monitors every now and again, and I think it's because monitors are quite fat, rich in fat. We are experiencing a very cool breeze. And you asking if they are related to a black-crested eagle. I don't think they are related, or they are in the same family of eagles, if that has any relation at all. But a martial eagle is a completely different species compared to that eagle. Victoria, you're asking why do birds of prey always perch on dead trees? Interestingly, so the eagles have got a very large wingspan, as well as the vultures would do. If you look at this martial eagle, he's got a wingspan of at least 2 meters wide. And the dead trees, with the less leaves and branches there, provides enough space for them to actually land or take off if they need to spread their wings wide open. You can imagine if he had to perch in a tree that was full of leaves, full of thorns, it would be difficult for the eagle there, because they also need big branches to support their weight. Because an eagle like this can easily weigh over 3 kgs, and the females, which are even bigger, can go to 4 kilograms. So you can imagine if they had to perch on top of those thin twigs, it would just break. So the dead trees are open enough for them to land and take off. It's just easier. I guess they also get to see a lot, because with the less branches and leaves, it means that tree is much more open for them to see and scan. This eagle in particular, perched next to a dam, knows that there'll be a lot of game coming down for a dam, and I think maybe is hoping for potential prey. I think that is just a beautiful tree, and impressively underneath the tree there's a lot of impalas and some waterbuck, and there could be something small there that he might be looking at, or he could just be resting, just planning out where to try and find his meal. LP, I agree with you. The eagle, especially the martial eagle, has got very, very beautiful colors on it. I like the spots on that white chest that they get. I have a feeling he's going to be perched here for a while. And surprisingly enough, on that particular tree that he's on, I've also seen a lot of fish eagle that will be perched there. think we're going to spend a little bit more time here, see what else we might find in this watering hole in the meantime. We'll send you guys over to Steve and his lions that side.
Well, everybody, we're probably going to move on from our lions after this, as they've all gone very flat and we only can see one. I'm surprised she hasn't moved yet. We're just waiting for a vehicle from Jakarta to come, guide them in here, and then we'll go off and see what else we can find this morning. It's been a very easy Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, is it? Food delivery day, very exciting. And we get some new fruit and vegetables. Oh, she's going to move soon after a little squeeze of her own head. You don't realize how formidable these lions are when you see them all comfortable and squeezy and cuddly like that. They are incredibly, incredibly powerful animals. And you also don't realize how big they are until they're right next to you, or the opening shot, you might have seen them lying in the road. That road is a 3-meter wide road, and they nearly covered the whole thing. So that's when you realize how big a lion is. Most people that I know, the biggest person I know probably weighs about 115 kilograms. The average lioness weighs 135, 140. So you put that into a weight category point of view. I've never met a person who weighs 115 who can run at 90 kilometers an hour either. Okay, I'm just going to be talking on the radio in a moment. I've got your audio, Abel. Keep coming. You might get our visual from the road.
Are you south or north?
North? Yeah, Abel, they're scattered all over here. So I can only see one, but they're all over the place here. Happy, every now and again, young males in a pride like the Telematis or the Unkuhuma pride, they look at the wheel, and when you move, they actually get quite interested and they want to go for the wheel. So you've actually got to stop the car and give them a bit of a talking to. I think last time with Mpo and with Theo last time, the lions were very interested in my car, and there was a bit of a panic for a moment. But yeah, I'm here, Abel. Hello, Abel. Okay, so they're joining us. So the thing is, with adult lionesses and with adult males, they don't really get that interested. They don't look at your car the same sort of way. But the last time, especially in the evenings when they're starting to get active, something that's moving, they're just very interested in it. And it's very important that you don't let them run after your car, because that's going to basically encourage a certain type of behavior. And we don't want that. We don't want lions to get too familiar with a car where they start to think that it's something to play with. So I have many times in the past just stopped the car, because the cam-ops may be getting a little bit panicked because the lion looks like it's going to pounce, but it's just the wheel that's moving, that it's got the lion going, this is very interesting. And so you just stop the car and you just talk to them very firmly, and they realize they've done something wrong and they stop doing it. It's only with youngsters, it's not with adults. And it's never been anything that has made me feel uncomfortable. Mpo? Mpo, no comment. No comment from Mpo there. But there's no chasing anything today. Like, for example, in the daytime, that young male was watching us before, but it wasn't the same intention. As soon as the sun sets and that different side of the lion comes out, it's something that's very noticeable when the sun sets. The lions and leopards become a different creature. And that's when the youngsters are very interested in anything that moves. They go for tortoises, they go for anything. Sometimes the pipes in the road, anything that's available to try and munch on, they have an interest in. So It's important not to encourage that sort of behavior, but is it just the inquisitiveness of the cat? Tyler, you want to know what you should do if you encounter a lion proud on foot? Well, first of all, Tyler, I hope you're with a qualified person who's walking you. If you just happen to be on your own, well, that's a very interesting place to be. First thing you should do is you should stand very still and make yourself look as big as possible. Obviously, every time lions are encountered on foot, the behavior of those lions is not always the same. If you walked up and you saw lions just lying in the grass and they looked at you and they would do crouching low, you, then you could probably just stand there for a little while and watch them. But if they did make any, and then eventually when you were finished watching them, you could walk backwards, keeping your eyes on the lions until you are a fair distance away before turning and getting out of there. But if you were walking, and this is what trails guides are trained to do, and you encountered lions and they made a noise, any form of aggressive noise, then you generally just stand your ground. And if they're not moving and making that noise, you can back away slowly, keeping your eyes on them, never ever turning your shoulder, never turning your shoulder. And if at any stage those lions do move towards you, then you just stand. And it's very hard for me to say that it won't happen to you, but most people end up saying some very loud, rude words in that moment. It just sort of happens. And there's never any judgment, rude words that come up. Often you have to apologize to the people with you afterwards if you did say something quite rude, but it's often the first thing that comes to your mind, something very loud. A squeal, very loud, firm sound. That generally works, and then the lion will stop, and you can back away even further. But it's definitely something I recommend being trained for. I wouldn't just go walking lions, everybody. I would make sure you go through the right amount of training, or if you do it with qualified people.
It's the month of March and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
I love being a cam op for Wild Earth the animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Elephants, elephants, elephants. Definitely making me happy this morning. I was busy waiting at Buffelshoek Dam for this herd to move along. But I have had to move to them, because they were just taking too long to get to the dam. Hey, little one. I guess there's too much great vegetation along the way. But they are steadily moving in that direction. So, hopefully that means by the end of drive we still have some time. Maybe they will make it to the dam and we can watch them have a drink and have a bit of a play, because that's what I want to see. I want to see it this morning. I think this morning is the best chance I've had since I've been back, because they're so close to the dam and they're moving in that general direction, and it's a nice big herd. You can see there's still some other individuals in the herd bringing up the rear. I love watching them come from some distance and walk towards you. It's so magical because they know that you're here in the road and they're still walking towards you. They're totally aware of you. So by the time they come here and meet us at the vehicle, they've made a decision to be here or not. Because you can see they'll easily be able to turn off. See, she's turning off now. Interesting, there's a bull with them and he's actually checking. He's testing her urine. See if she's receptive. Jerome, hi. You'd like to know if we always see different elephants? There are a few very recognizable elephants that we do see often, or that we've seen over the years and we can recognize. For example, Daryl. We had an elephant named Daryl. Haven't seen him in a while. Then Fang is one that we see quite often. It's always nice to see her because she's got a beautiful head. And there's also this other elephant that's got half an ear. See, those are really recognizable features, so we can tell that, it's the same elephant. But these elephants can move freely between the Kruger and here and all the way up past South Africa if they want to, because there's no fences. And elephants have massive home ranges, thousands of kilometers. So we may always be seeing different elephants. But more often than not, they kind of circle back. And the elephants we see here in the Sabi Sands are really relaxed compared to what you might see in other areas. So we're very fortunate in that regard. Oh, nothing like a bit of trunk flinging first thing in the morning. See, they've seen us, they've decided, nah, they're not in the mood for humans today, they're going to turn off. Hopefully they'll change their mind and come towards us. Donna, you'd like to know what the largest elephant herd I've ever seen on safari was. I actually think it was at Buffelshoek Dam, and they just kept coming through and coming through and coming through, and we counted something like 60. I think that was the largest I've ever seen. Generally, the size of a herd that I'm used to seeing is about 20, 25, and then once it's in, 30, 40, then I'll say, oh, that's a big herd. But this one was even bigger, the one I remember that I can recall. I saw it before Buffelshoek Dam. Because remember, oh, somebody's on the ground. What I'm saying is, even the herds can still be together, but not necessarily all in a group. They'll just keep coming. They don't have to all be sticking together in the exact same block or whatever. They can be a couple 100 meters apart. What is going on there? So much time to play. Looks like it's time for a nap there. Much of the time when they flop down like this, they end up play fighting and all those other very cute activities that we get to watch. It almost looks like they've just collapsed to have a bit of a nap. Well, the other youngster's not going to let you all have a nap. That's like when your brother sits on you and says, I can't hear you. Are you struggling? I can't hear you. No. I love to watch them get up like that because obviously they're so heavy. So they've got to kind of use the momentum of their trunk, moving their trunk to help them up. So cute. Oh, the other two youngsters are getting kicked away by the one on the ground. Leave me alone. Hammond, you'd like to know if this is very unusual behavior? Nope, this is very typical. Very, very typical, especially if you have a number of youngsters together. Look at that. Small, smaller, smallest. So cute. Hammond, it's very, very typical. We see them playing on the ground often, piling on top of each other. If you're talking about in terms of naps and sleeping, elephants will sleep on the ground, especially if they want to get REM sleep, but it's for very, very short periods, about 20 minutes or so. But the youngsters will be on the ground to sleep more often than the adults. So none of this is unusual behavior. It's all fairly typical. They just had to stand still there to listen to whatever was being told to them by the rest of the herd. Okay, proceeding towards us. So hopefully we'll get a really nice shot as they come past. Priscilla, you'd like to know how far they'd travel in a day? Oh, it's really, really variable. It all depends on water sources and access to vegetation. So, for example, today I saw these elephants far into the block when we got into this area, which was about around 7 o'clock. So in an hour and a half, they must have moved about 500 meters, not far at all. And that's because there's a water source close by. There's a whole lot of vegetation. It's been a great year in terms of rains. So they didn't have to move very far. And that's just, in an hour and a bit. So today they might only move 10 kilometers. But in the drought, they might move hundreds of kilometers. Probably not 100 in a day. Or not hundreds in a day. If they really keep moving, really desperate, they could get 100 kilometers in a day. Especially because they're not walking in a straight line, So if you were to cover the distance that they're moving around and away and all of that. In desperate times, they could move very far in a day. And plus, they're always moving, or they can keep moving. But it's so variable because it depends ultimately on the availability of resources. I might try my luck with these elephants again around Buffelshoek Dam. See if they will make me proud and come to the dam. So I've been waiting for them at the dam for so long. I've been visiting Buffelshoek Dam, waiting for them for days, for at least a week now. But they're turning into torchwood. No, come this side. Oh, she actually listened just a little bit. Although I can still see the herd that passed us, I can still hear them. I could see a elephant butt or two, but now they're gone in. I can still hear them, so it's still a while till they get to the dam. But as I said before, herds can be in little fragments. They don't necessarily stick together so that you visually can see, oh, this is a whole herd. If you stick in one spot, you'll see them pass, and you can realize, this is one herd. They're just fragmented as a result of stopping at one particular tree that they like, or a patch of grass that they like. And when you see them like this, the most immediate individuals, usually calves and mum or grandma. That is a big stick you've got in your mouth. Edmund, you'd like to know if elephants need water every day? That is a resounding yes. They do, and even several times a day if they can get it. Water is very, very important to them. They're large animals. They're constantly eating vegetation. They have expending a lot of energy. They're getting really warm. They're always around or within. Water is always within a couple kilometers of them. And they will drink absolutely once a day, and more than that if they can. Well, they've been quite good to us, so we can move a little bit closer and get past this bush so we can get a better view of them. It's always good to give them some space at first, and then moving forward once you know that they're comfortable. They'll probably still display to us a little bit, but it'll be quite safe. you'll be able to actually hear them breaking the grass. They tend to break it instead of pulling it out by the root, and if they do get soiled and other stuff that they don't want into their mouths, if they do get it into their mouths, or if they do get it when they pick it up, you'll find that they'll dust it. They'll hit that grass or whatever onto them and then put it into their mouths. Whoa, there's some big guys coming out of Torchwood there. Mandy, you'd like to know at what age do they actually master the use of their trunk? Oh, it's only after about a year and a half to 2 years. It's strange. So when they're under a year, they're still very, very, their trunk is quite a toy. And then after that, they start to gain a bit of control. And then at about 3 to 4, actually more around 3, they start to get a little bit clumsy again in an attempt to kind of imitate the adults. So instead of just doing what works for them and using the trunk normally, then they want to use it all fancily and like I was saying, how they hit the grass against them to get any soil loose so they don't put it into their mouth. They'll try and do it very fancily and curl the trunk in the way that the adults do, and then they become clumsy looking again. But it's only because they're now trying to imitate the adults in terms of that fanciness, not just in usefulness. And by the time they're 4, they'll use it in the exact same way as you see it with the adult. 5-year-old elephant is just a mini adult at that point in terms of the way that it uses its trunk. And by that time, it's also calmed down a little bit from the boisterous behavior we normally see in very young elephants, which is just too cute. They go through a bit of a dip, and then they, around 7 to about 10, then they're naughty again. And about 10 years old, the mother starts to, especially if it's males, starts to give him a bit of a hard time because he's going to be pushed out of the herd soon. And then between 10 and 13, his mother's starting to push him out. Anywhere between 13 to 18, he'll be pushed out and he'll hang out on the fringe of the herds. It all depends on his behavior. If he's well behaved, she might allow him to stick in the herd a little longer than usual. Look at that. Monty Bull, you'd like to know what is the ratio of bulls to cows in a herd? So in a herd, it's just females and her offspring. Let's go a little bit more forward so we can have a look at what these guys are doing. The herds are really nicely, it's spaced out all around us. And everyone's very comfortable, and this is an ideal situation. So the herd comprises of a female and her offspring. As far as I know, I don't think there's a skew in their sexes, but I could be wrong because it's not something I've looked at particularly. So it should be 50-50 as it is with the majority of species, except certain ones like wild dogs, for example. But that skew is always very, very tiny. And with elephants, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't looked at it particularly. But I doubt it would be very far from 50-50. Oh, you asked for ratio 1:1. This is lovely. It's quite a large herd. If I had to count from the time we first got here, I'd say we've already seen about 25 different elephants. And there's possibly more. I can still see there's more to come. So maybe we'll see about 30, 35. That would be awesome. Up to 40 would be great. But this is what I mean, is that you think, oh, you're just seeing one herd, and then others come streaming through. So you don't get to see them in one big crowd, except when they're at the dam. There comes some more. Hi Melissa, you're 10 years old. Thank you so much for watching and learning all about the animals we get to show you. You'd like to know, when do elephants trumpet? They'll trumpet when they're a little bit excited. So that could mean that they're excited in the sense that they get a little bit scared and a little bit nervous, or they got a bit of a, like, you know, if you drive past and you get scared because they get a shock, then they trumpet. But they can also trumpet when they're happy excited. So it can be nervous excited or happy excited when they trumpet. Now that sound was not a trumpet, that was a screech of, but I want to drink milk and nobody's feeding me. I can spend all day with elephants. They just make me feel better always. Even if you're not having a bad day, your day is better when you get to see elephants. Especially a herd with a number of youngsters like this one has. Hi Simone, you'd like to know how often the herd splits? Very, very often. Are you talking about, okay, I'll answer both of these. So split in the sense that some of the herd will hang out in Torchwood, say, and some of the herd will hang out in Djuma. That happens all the time. Yes, I see you. I see you are very big. Someone's got a new hat. This is a great new look for the elephants coming out of Torchwood. Beautiful. But sorry, Simone, so if the elephants are just splitting up because of resources, some like this tree, some like this grass, that can happen all the time, any time of the day, because the herd is still together. But if you're talking about when a herd actually splits and it becomes a separate herd, that can happen as a result of a couple things. One, maybe there are two very large females in the herd, and their families are becoming larger. They're having lots of calves, and they decide that they have enough. They have enough individuals and they have good resources in the area. Then they'll move off. You can regard that as a split. But all herds within a certain home range are most likely related matriarchally. So grandmothers, sisters, mothers and sisters around that area. So they'll split off very naturally. There's no kind of dominance thing that happens. There's no takeovers or anything like that happens. It's natural. It's a natural split because maybe I'm happy just leading my 2 daughters and their 2 sons. That kind of thing. The other thing that can cause a split is if there's a calf that is injured, that causes the herd to to naturally split up because there's a big distance between the movement of one calf and its family and the rest of the herd, then that can cause a split. But most of the time, it's a very, very natural, fluid thing. And meetings between herds is quite amicable, generally speaking. Sometimes it's not so amicable, especially if there's a little one that's gotten caught up in or mixed up in the herds if the two herds are drinking at a water hole. But even then, it's not confrontational. There's just lots of trumpeting and the ground shakes. We had one sighting like that a couple months back at Vuyatela Dam, where the ground just shook. They were all around us, maybe 40 elephants, trumpeting, rumbles. It was unbelievable. I could actually feel it. And that was just because apparently there was some sort of mix-up. When I say apparently, it's not because somebody came and told me. It's because that's what it looked like. Like some of the herd or some of the youngsters had gotten mixed up. But it's hardly confrontational. Confrontations usually happen between males. And remember, herds are breeding herds. If they're males within this herd, large bulls, that is, it's because they're looking to mate. Large bulls will be tolerated if they don't harass females, though. I can still hear them all around me. I'm having the time of my life. I guess you guys are also enjoying it very much. Like I said, all day. I could sit here all day and watch them and talk to them. I love talking to them. It's the only animal out here where, you've seen us. We speak to all the animals. Whether it's the hyenas or the leopards or the lions, we speak to them. Just like, Steve was saying, these young lions get interested in their tires and he used to give them a talking to. We all do that. But with elephants, somehow when you speak to them, they're not responding, they're not giving any hint of that they can understand you. But the way that they look at you, it just kind of feels that there's some kind of reciprocation going on. I just don't know how or on what level. But they are so aware of us. Look, like this. There's a little one walking towards us now. It's seen us from a distance. It knows we're here, but it's not trying to go past us. It's not trying to look past us. It's seen us from a distance and walking towards us, checking us out. They're so aware of us. I love it. Hi, Jolene. You'd like to know if a baby elephant's memory is good? That's a difficult one to answer. Because they definitely have all the bits in the brain that is needed for a good memory and a good big brain. But they don't have the experience or the amount of memories to be able to say that they have good memory. But definitely they have all the components, the physical components that are needed to have a good memory. That whole idea of elephants having a good memory comes from the fact that they can go when resources are scarce. They can go to areas that they remember from younger years, and they can lead their herds there. Hello, girl. Hello. I know. I know this is your area. See how she moved towards us, and when I spoke to her, she lifted up her head. It's just always a good thing to speak to them, because they they then realize that you're not a threat. Because if I were a predator, if I was something that was a threat to them, I'd be trying to hide, and I'd be trying to keep my voice very low. I'd be trying to be very quiet, right? In the same way as something that's stalking, a predator that's stalking. I know, girl. I know. So by speaking and not trying to lower my tone, not trying to behave like I'm hiding, I'm letting her know that I'm not a threat to her. And she's been seeing us for a while. So just because she came close, she's trying to just check us out again. And now she's trying to pretend that she's feeding, but she's not. There, She's being a little bit difficult, but I am in the area, and she's also got a small cough. So if you noticed, she gave us 2 displays there. One display was when she shook her head and her ears hit the side of her body, and you heard that. That's a typical display. The second one, she tilted her head and she tucked her trunk. That's when I shouted loudly, because it doesn't look obvious, but that's the one that she could suddenly decide she's not happy with you. Not very obvious, but you can feel it when you're here. I think now that we're very much surrounded, this female is relaxed now that she's moved off and she's got her cough. So let's enjoy it some more in a bit.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Wild Earth explorer Jenny recently joined Tristan as he broadcast live from Djuma.
Awesome to kind of have a guest on board. I'm looking forward to this. This is Jenny.
Hi everyone.
And Jenny is the first of our Ticket to Dream holders.
If you want to go on safari with a Wild Earth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Literally being with Tristan on the vehicle today has been incredible. It has truly been a dream come true.
Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
I would highly recommend being a part of the Explorer program and being able to be a part of an interactive live drive.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Beautiful antelopes, the impalas are here. You can see, if you look at this herd here, none of them have got horns course, the herd expands to behind these bushes that we are, but it's mostly the females and young ones that are here. And with that, I believe it is now the end of March and the beginning of April, which only means one thing for this particular species. It comes the rutting season and the mating season in May. So right now, the dominant males pushed off all the other males out of the herds, and they just stay with the females by themselves. And I'm guessing if any other male wants to come back, they're going to have to fight for that. A little bit jumpy. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful shot there with the sun actually lighting them up. You get to see their colors properly. It's a very tough life these impalas have, being prey to almost all the predators that they are. Rockstone, you're asking if a bachelor herd is usually larger than a female herd. In most cases, the herds of the females are the large ones, and the bachelor herds are relatively small. Sometimes they do get to at least 10, 20, but remember, the females, when they give birth to youngsters, if they're in that ratio, the young females stay with the herd, so that actually extends the size of the herd, and the young males, the other males will push out. So the number of males will be less than the number of females. They constantly need to be aware, as they know that they are being hunted by almost all the predators that they are. And you can see there's the male. That's the big guy with the horns there. For now, this is his herd. In the next month, the guys will fight, and they've been practicing all year. Some of the big males there might pose a threat. So he's still in charge of this herd. He still gets to mate with all the females there. And if any other male wants to, has to go through him. It would be interesting, because sometimes, in between that gap from the rutting and the mating season to the next year's season, you can imagine maybe that male gets caught or killed by lions, leopards, cheetahs, wild dogs, hyenas, and that slot becomes available. Now, the bachelor herd has to fight to win the mating rights. Even if that male isn't there, all the other males will want that spot. So they're going to have to fight. You can imagine the sightings we're going to have in the next coming month. If you look at the size difference there, you can see there's a couple of young ones, especially those two on the roads. Looks like young males. You can see. You can see Marcus. At what age will the male calf start growing horns? If you look right there on your screen, you see those two there? They've got very tiny horns pointing out. And these guys are from the litter of this past November, December. So you can see his horns, or the horns are starting to come out already. So around the ages of at least 2-3 months, the horns start pointing out to come out, and you can see that's the age where these guys are at the moment. Little do they know that they have a very interesting life waiting ahead of them. Like, can you asking why are there stripes on the tail and behind them? That black stripe, you can imagine, because now think about this, when they are moving through the bushes, they also need to blend in and camouflage. And those black stripes there also help with that, maybe when in amongst the bushes, to sort of break out that shape of the animal, not make it clear that what it is, because inside the thickets there's a lot of predators. So just something to throw them off. And you can see they constantly keep swishing their tails. It is starting to get hot, and I think they're also going to start looking for shade, and I can see where they are. There's quite a lot of bushes, so they might just keep moving off to the thickets over there to try and keep cool. It's amazing how the species, although they're being hunted constantly every single day by the different predators throughout Africa, and yet it is still the one animal that we see a lot of. There are a lot in numbers. You just see them. Let me try and reposition. I think we might get them crossing the road back there. You can see how they just stop to have a look. Look at them go. I think that was the last one of the herd. All right. I think we're going to carry on moving. We're going to move on. And we're going to send you guys over to Trishala in Djuma.
We're back at the dam. I was hoping that in the time that we spent with those elephants, the first portion of the herd that was moving in this direction would already be here. But apparently not. Too much tasty vegetation between where we were and here. We were on Cheetah Cut Line. Maybe a kilometer from there to the dam. But nothing. Which is a shame. I really wanted to see to see them come and have a play here. Some of the other youngsters decided they wanted to give us a hard time too. So instead of stressing them out and staying there, we left. The one female with a broken tusk was not happy, but it felt as if they had seen or smelt something all of a sudden, because everybody's tails were very stiff, their noses were up, and their trunks kind of, they point upwards and they lift up their heads like that. So maybe there was a predator in the area. They caught whiff of a predator, because that's usually what happens when they behave in that way. We were sitting there for a long time, all was fine, until something changed, and it wasn't us. They'll often misplace their aggression to anything that's foreign, or that's not part of the natural environment. They'll go towards it if they are scared of something. So if they smell a leopard or a lion or something like that in the area, and they see our vehicle, they can decide that we are the problem. Or even if we're not the problem, but we are some source of irritation, so we can be, we can attract their aggression. It's always better if you feel that's happening, like I did just now, just move away. Anyway, I'm glad that we managed to spend that much time with the elephants, even if they didn't come to the dam. So for now, I'm going to send you over to Pete in Pinda.
Welcome back to and Beyond Pinda. We've got this beautiful big male giraffe. He's got such a beautiful dark color, and you don't often see them this dark on Pinda. It's really, really beautiful to see. Look now, he's just nibbling at the top of the tree. This is a buffalo thorn, and it's one of the trees that you don't really want to walk through. It's got some really, really nasty thorns, but if you just watch how he's feeding, you can see how he's using his lips and his tongue very carefully just to nibble off those luscious green leaves there. See how he uses his head and lifts it to strip off those leaves as well. The buffalo thorn is one of the giraffe's favorites on the reserve. Often you'll drive past one and you'll see they'll have a lot of leaves towards the bottom half of the tree, and then up around where the layer where a giraffe would be able to feed, there's not much. And you can actually see that quite evidently in this tree as well. If you look to the right where the giraffe's neck is, there's not a whole lot of leaves there. And as you go lower down where a giraffe probably wouldn't be able to reach, there's a lot more foliage, a lot more leaves. On the slightly larger trees, you'll see it's got like an hourglass shape. Nicole, that's a very interesting question, quite a hard one to answer. I'm not 100% sure if they have taste buds, but I definitely know that they try and avoid any trees or leaves that have high tannin contents. So it might be because of the taste buds saying that it's not nice, but also the way that it reacts with the body. So often a tree like a mopani tree or a red bush willow, it's got high tannin contents, or even a magic worry. They would try and avoid that because they know that that would kind of give them an upset stomach if they do eat too much of it. Trees that they favor more than others. So perhaps they do have taste buds. This is quite a... This looks like he's in his prime, this bull. You can see he's got really, really beautiful skin still. Often the older bulls will have a kind of like shaggy skin, especially between their legs or in front of their front legs. But he looks like he's either just going into his prime or in his prime now. But I just noticed, Craig, if you go just to his behind leg there, it looks like there's 2 scratch marks. I'm not sure if he's going to go behind the bush. There, I don't know if you can see it just moving there. It looks like maybe a predator once got him, maybe when he was a lot younger, or tried to get hold of him. But at this age now, at the size he is now, there's no ways that any predator is going to take him down. We're going to send you off to Taylor at Proudlands.
So we've done quite a big walk this morning, and we decided last minute to pop down to Ndlovu Dam to see what... And we have, of course, found an elephant. There's 2 bulls there. You can also hear the African grey hornbills in the background. That very high-pitched sound. They're no swimming today, it doesn't seem. They're just having a quick drink before they move on off. Or maybe they'll go around. Who knows? We'll just sit and watch patiently. But the reason why we did actually come down towards Ndlovu Dam was because of something we heard on the radio, and that's wild dogs. So there were wild dogs that were spotted not too far away from our boundary, just on Kwenga, which borders to the east of us, and it sounded like there was a pack of 7 or so. And as you know, the wild dogs here, they often go through fences. So they go into town, into the wildlife estate. It's amazing, the wilderness just in this area. Anyways, but they were coming east, so they were coming to the west. So we thought that because of the amount of times we've seen wild dogs at Ndlovu Dam, perhaps they'd get here. We march, because the distance from where our boundary is to Ndlovu Dam is for wild dogs is a couple of minutes. It's not going to take them very long at all. So, but no luck, unfortunately. We're still just going to linger here probably for the rest of the morning and hope that they do make their way down here. But the bulls now, they're just walking. There's one standing on the top of the dam wall. The other one is making his way around, slowly but surely. But fingers crossed that we do get wild dogs at the dam, because there's lots and lots of animals around here. Impala, the elephants, all sorts of things. So it could be quite interesting. Anyways, if we go back across to Apinda to see what's happening that side.
I really hope that Taylor gets to find those wild dogs. We're still just here with this big male giraffe. He's been shaking and baking. This tree's kind of been swishing all over the place. He's got his head right in the middle of this tree now. Often people ask why giraffes have those beautiful long eyelashes. If you see those eyelashes, they're really, really long. And one of the reasons is, you can see now, while he's got his head right inside the bush, you can imagine thorns could be quite dangerous to their eyes. So those eyelashes are very nice, or very good at protecting their eyes. They've also got that big ridge just above the eye, which helps them as well. He's at full stretch there. It's amazing how accurate that tongue is as well. He knows exactly where he wants to go and exactly the branch he wants to feed off as well. Even down to the leaf in that case. It's amazing, they don't really nibble off with their teeth. They use completely their lips and their tongue. If you look carefully, you can see now he's just stripping it off. He's not using his teeth to bite, and if he gets onto a twig, that's why it pulls all the way like that. He's not biting those branches off. Look at him awkwardly trying to just get around this tree now. Look how his neck is straight up. Vincent's giraffe do make a sound, so they do make a very weird sound, but it's something you don't hear very often. So they do have those vocal cords, but they make a very, it's like a squealing sound, and it's probably the time you hear it the most is when there's a young calf with his mum around or can't find his mum. That's when you might be able to hear it. It's also a distress call you might hear sometimes, but very, very, very uncommon to hear them make a sound, but they do make a sound. We can see that scark now that I was talking about earlier, Craig. If you just go to that leg there we go. See, there's almost two lateral lines that run alongside the body. It could have been when maybe this male was being chased by lions and there was maybe a deep thorn or a very sharp thorn that grabbed it, but it also looks just like a claw mark. You can see there's two of them right next to each other. So quite interesting. Imagine that scenario, what would have happened here. It does look quite old as well. Here we go, slowly getting to those lower leaves we were talking about. And yeah, but he won't get too much lower than that. It's quite interesting to see now that knob on the top of their head as well. That's what they often use for fighting, and you don't often see it from this angle. So it's quite cool to see it from this angle. But we're going to sit here for a little while, and we're going to send you off to Rule at Ngala.
If you look over there, we've got a very nice herd of zebra. And I can see there's like also a young one there. There is a few. There's one that just came out from behind the bush. I think there's still a few more on the side of the road. I think zebras are very beautiful animals. You can see an impala just running across there. You can hear the sound in the background. Sound of those impalas as they want to begin their rutting. Look at all the tails just keep wagging. This is also to help with the flies, but it's also become muscle memory. This animal, they just keep wagging it. And what I like is that if you look at the two zebra there, you'll see the pattern, especially towards their back, how different they are. If you look at the stripes, you can see that one there on the white. Oh, that was interesting. I wonder what could have spooked them. Let's move up a little bit closer and see if they just ran off to the sides of the road or did something really spook them far. It's common that they will be skittish because there might be predators in the area. You'll never know when it's this thick. Megan, you're asking if a zebra's diet consists mainly of grass. Yes. A zebra's main diet is grass. Surprisingly enough, during the drought, I actually did see a zebra eating leaves, which was a little bit strange. But I guess at that time, there was just not enough food, or there wasn't any grass at all to go around. You can see the impalas. There's the male with the horns behind that bush. All this running around and chasing each other around. It's all that fitness training that they are preparing themselves for the rutting season. Because the rutting season is very important, especially for the males. It means at least that male that comes out at the top will get mating rights. It's actually sad to think that one or two of these impalas die without ever getting an opportunity to mate. See, sometimes that can be quite distracting for the zebras while the impalas are caught up in their own little adventure, making all this noise and running around. Just makes it hard to concentrate in case there is a predator, because even though they do that, they tend to lose attention and focus. Predators will still lurk in the surrounding bushes. So just to be able to hear all the impalas are making all that noise and all that running around, sometimes is a challenge. I wonder what he's saying. Jerome, you asking if impalas take quick naps all the time? Yes, they do. In the evenings especially, they can't afford to go into that deep sleep that you would go into, especially on a long Friday night, where your whole body shuts out and your senses are just down and you can't hear or smell or see anything. they can't afford to do that. So basically, they take those little short naps just to rest their body every now and a while, just to have or reserve their strength to carry on feeding and try and run away if they need to. So those short naps are very important for them. Must be difficult only having to rest for an hour or few hours in a day, every day for the rest of your life. But again, to survive, I think that's what they need to do. So it's always interesting to spend time with general game and to always look, see if you can find anything else. So while we spend a little bit more time here, I'll send you guys to Trish and see what she has for you that side.
We have found this mongoose family. A whole lot of them on this mound. A nice way to end off the day. Whole heap of mongoose. There was a juvenile fork-tailed drongo around watching them too. And red-billed hornbill. All waiting to get going. Yes. All of you work together to find the prey that everybody is after. Some nice insects. Oh, yes. Can you hear them? Zip-zip-zip. Just faintly in the background, they're calling to each other. This is how I expect to find them. At this time, it'll actually be great for them because it's very, very cloudy. A lot of cloud has come in, but it's still warm, so they're nice and warm. They've managed to sun themselves and bask on this mound. But still, they won't have a problem with aerial predators. Very, very cool. We're going to stick with them until the end of drive.
For all of you Wild Earth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew. Hopefully, Dan Black, Liesel Apgar, and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, Walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at Wild Earth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
It is definitely happening. Everybody is slowly moving off, some not so slowly. The hornbills are all around, and they've been diving down, coming back up. It's almost time to work. Well, about time. It's almost 9:30 here. Yeah, you should be working. You are all in a business, aren't you? You'll be able to hear the drongo. These mongoose will be taking cues from the drongos, taking cues from the hornbills. Everybody working together. One is slightly more sly than the others, that being the drongo, can false alarm sometimes, making the mongoose drop whatever prey they've got and hurry into their mound or to safety, and then the drongo will swoop in and take what they've dropped. But most of the time, a reliable partner. Oh, that's some good sun right there. They're just too cute. I just want to show you this drongo quickly. Off to the left here, because it's a juvenile. So it doesn't have its full adult coloration. It's quite pretty because it's a little bit mixed up. It almost looks a grey-black, kind of mottled, but the edges of the feathers, what would normally be black feathers as an adult, the edges of them are this grey, so they've got these nice grey scalloped edges. So there's a juvenile fork-tailed drongo getting acquainted with the mongoose, figuring out how they can work together. This is my favorite, when I see the mongoose. When there's nice bright sun, then they stretch out over the mound, get that belly nice and warm, and absorb that sunlight on the top. Oh! They heard something suddenly. There's still a few heads popping up. There's always something happening with these guys. Always some movement. Whether they're playing with each other, whether they're darting in and out, whether it's us that they're interested in, always something interesting. We've just got one last little head there. The last one to go out foraging and look for breakfast. Off it goes. Well, speaking of going out and looking for breakfast, luckily Johan and I don't have to forage. We just have to go to camp, and it's that time. So thank you everyone for your questions and your comments. We'll see you this afternoon. Bye.